Well, hello again, world. This is Joshin Master with another set series of what I call the Frenemy. Now, this one is for predominantly the female audience, and the reason for that being is that I don't think women realize what a frenemy is. Um, they're usually the closest friend within your group that is conspiring to try to take you down. Now, this isn't any kind of paranoia or schizophrenia aspects I'm trying to instill in anybody in any way, shape, or form. But the reality is that there are people within your midst who are going to try to take you down. They're going to use every trick in the book psychologically that they can. And especially with women, they don't use physical violence quite a bit. Often they're more likely to use mental warfare tactics. And the reason why I know so much about this particular subject matter is because I've worked in the spa industry for probably about going almost nearly 18 to 20 years now. And I've worked with plenty of females. I'm a massage therapist, now I'm also a personal trainer. And I do quite a bit in the regards of working with women in a lot of different aspects. And what I've come to realize is that they have a tendency to try to build up a rapport with a female that they know is the most attractive or most popular in that regard, and they try to do everything they can to take her down. And that is a terrible thing to see. Or they just gossip amongst one another. They know that someone is being more successful than they are, even if the person isn't a bitch and is actually a pretty decent and kind of kind and polite and an appropriate woman. They attack. And especially in the professional business world, women will backstab each other. In fact, this is a psychological premise called the Queen Bee Syndrome, which is where a woman will try to establish dominance over the rest. She'll use any methodology she can to try to monkey branch or climb her way up into the CEO corporate realm, and she doesn't care who she backstabs to do it. And that is not cool, but that's just how the world works. Especially in the business industry, people do a lot of different things in that kind of aspect. Excuse me, and it's not even with just that. It's also in life too, because women generally have groups of friends, and they can't stand being around one another. They really can't. They, as I like to call, caggle. A caggle of women will definitely, basically, have their bathroom time. They'll all get up collectively, go together, and then they'll start talking about that one girl that's who they consider to be their optimal threat. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some definite bitches out there. They're just women who just like to complain, bitch, moan. They're what I call a bipolar bistic kind of female. They're really, thank you, Pops. This is when it goes up Pops Terrence for that terminology. They're so crazy. Like even amongst women, they're just crazy. They don't care who they hurt or who they get. So, got to be careful about that. So know who you surround yourself with, especially you ladies. Got to be very careful about that stuff. The other thing too is that toxic people will drain your energy. They will take everything out of your life, and there's also the codependent relationship, which is where you're doing everything you can to help the person. You're doing everything you can to try and make a difference in their life. But they only come to you when they have a problem or they need something from you. That person may not necessarily be a bad person in any way, shape, or form, but they only come to you when they need or want something. That is not a healthy relationship. That is only a person who is using you, whether consciously or unconsciously, and that's when you need to set up boundaries. Now, this is kind of hard, especially when you're in the female camp, because women get very emotional with one another, and they get bullied. They can bully the living shit out of each other. I mean, they talk about toxic masculinity on these different aspects. Let me tell you something. Women can be just as brutal, if not more, than men, because they do this. It's called the mental mind fuck, and they do it with each other. Since they don't always have the ability to be able to fight physically, they fight mentally. So they use any kind of trick and the ploy that they can to psychologically or emotionally damage a female who they see as a threat, or see as a person who is not coming into their fold or tribe, as you would see. And that can have ramifications for not just months but even years. And they deploy the same kind of shit on dudes. You know, if a woman feels like she's being mistreated, or she's feeling like she's being inappropriately um, put into a certain position, she's going to fight back, not physically, but she's going to fight back psychologically. And we're only focusing on we're talking about people who are 100 degrees fucked up and they don't know the difference between right and wrong, and their lives are just a total mess. And so they attack anyone or anything that they see. But also, it's not just with women like that, too. It also has to deal with people who are what they call SJWs, or social justice warriors. See, anything that is contrary or contradictory that you consider to their viewpoint, they will attack you. They will attack you mentally more than physically. But they start getting into shout matches. And the reason for this is because this is where the warrior part comes in, is that if you don't feel or you don't agree with anything that they particularly are obliged with, or their particular movement, they will attack you, even if you're not threatening to them. Just because you disagree with them, they consider you to be a threat. This is actually a very maternal instinct that women utilize with their friends and even family. So it's kind of like what I like to call the mama bear syndrome, which is where they'll pop on in and they'll just attack you just because you don't agree with them. Now, granted, there are times where it's necessary. Whatever. You protect the people who you should protect. Okay? Just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that you have the right to attack them. You can perfectly have an appropriate conversation or dialogue, even if you don't agree. You can even debate. You can even get into an argument without having to get violent. It's not necessary. But that's the emotional strata. That's part of the emotional aspect of the female psychology and female mindset. So the bottom line of this video is to get to the dead point of be careful of who you surround yourself with, because who you surround yourself with is who you become. So let's try to work on not trying to backstab one another, especially you ladies. Oh yes, I'm giving you the finger point on that one. And discover who your frenemy is, because I guarantee you got one in your camp. So be careful about that. Make sure that you know who your true friends are, because they're the one. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, the people who lie to your face and tell you that you always look beautiful and everything like that, bullshit. A true friend will always tell you the truth, no matter whether you want to hear it or not. Honesty is the best policy. Whether they like it, whether they don't like it, there's that time where you need to get that slap across the face when you're down in the dumps and your friend pulls you up by the bootstraps and says, "What the fuck are you doing?" You need to get off your ass. You need to pick yourself up. You need to stop this negative bullshit, negative thinking, and those are your true friends, the people who are always there for you and always have your back. But don't abuse them. Don't abuse your friends. Be grateful that you have them, and, make sure that you treat them right. So I call these the 5 basic laws of friendship. Never abuse your friendship. Always make sure that you know the person, you know their heart, you know their soul, you know their spirit. As the Bible states, try the spirit by the spirit, which means just because a person's talking doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. It just means they talk a lot of shit and smack. Their actions will speak louder than their words. Number 2, make sure that you are aware of your friend's personality, because we all have friends from all different creeds and nations and walks of life, and becoming aware of their personality is important, so you know how to navigate, you know how to be able to handle them. And number 3 is treat them how you want to be treated. Very simple. You don't want to get treated like shit, don't treat your friends like shit. Number 4, when you make a deal, or you make an agreement, or you make a promise, keep it. A lot of times people will speak completely out of their ass and not keep it, and especially this day and age, your person's word doesn't seem to mean shit anymore, which is complete and total bullcrap. And number 5, love your friends, no matter if they're male or female. I love my brothers. I got plenty of bro friends, especially in the gym games. Gym bros are probably some of the most reliable bros you can ever have, especially when you're sitting there benching. And, if you need to talk, That's how that works too. And for the ladies, especially since this is geared towards, when I went off track on that, but since this is geared towards that aspect, find a confidant. Find somebody you know won't sit there and talk behind your back and won't gossip, and they got your back no matter what. You don't need to have a shit ton load of acquaintances. There's a difference between an acquaintance, a friendship, and a relationship. A relationship can be just anything in between. Once again, this goes out to Terrence Potts for that one, because he's totally badass in that regard. But relationships, when it's just everything is just going into the total shithole. So remember, think wisely, don't be stupid, and question all things. Joshin Master out.